Hello and welcome to an all-new Geek World Order video. Randy here, and today we are really gonna talk about some fun, exciting things, man. This past weekend was San Diego Comic-Con, and dude, all the news and the notes and announcements, all that great stuff coming out of that con. Dude, I am just pumped, man. Because one of the big things has been, and that I just absolutely love, is Star Trek. And of course, we knew there were some projects that were going to be coming into being into the next year or two in Star Trek with the end of season 2 of Star Trek Discovery, and kind of moving forward. What CBS is wanting to do is build out the Star Trek content that is on their streaming platform, CBS All Access. And what they're going to do is they're actually going to rotate series out. Star Trek is actually going to be coming back in a big way. It's going to be one of the cornerstones of their streaming platform, the All Access system. And we learned so much about what's going to be happening in the world of Star Trek, oh man, over the next year or so. And really, this is so exciting. But just, and of course, one of the big things they talked about and showed was a full-length trailer for Picard. And I do want to get into that. I want to talk about this in a few minutes. There's a couple other bits and pieces of news, so let me talk about those first, and then I can really deep dive into the Picard trailer. So one of the things they did announce was the Lower Deck series. We did get some new official artwork. We met the cast. We met the characters. One of the big things they have is Jeri O'Connell doing one of the voices. Basically, it looks like what the show is going to be. And the main description of the show is basically it's going to be sort of following these low-ranking ensign characters, as basically they just have boring menial jobs. And it's something that hasn't been explored a lot in Star Trek, is the lower ranking characters. Harry Kim was one of the most prominent characters of Voyager, but he was still a senior staff officer. And there's been a couple episodes of Star Trek that kind of had more focus on lower ranked characters. There was the episode Lower Decks of TNG, which features some, junior officers kind of going through some different things. There was also the episode of Voyager where Captain Janeway kind of took under her wing these crew members who were a little underdeveloped, weren't contributing a lot to the ship. These were people that, in a normal duty sense, would have been thrown off the ship a long time ago. They would have been reassigned. They might have washed out of Starfleet, but really, Lower Decks is kind of going to be focusing on those lower ranking characters, ensigns. And we got some of the look of the series. It's a really good looking animation, at least from the pictures we've seen. I like the look of those uniforms. Oh, those are really nice uniforms, and it's going to be fun. It's the series head is one of the main writers of Rick and Morty, so that'll be interesting. Now, another piece of media that is coming out later this year is what they are calling the Prime Directive. It is an official Star Trek podcast through CBS. Really, they haven't really announced much of it. One of the main hosts that they've announced right now is a woman by the name of Tawny Newsome, who is actually going to be one of the main voice actors for Lower Decks. So that's pretty cool, and they'll be obviously taking a look at Star Trek, giving us news, whatever they feel like giving us. But that's really the cool part. So we're involving someone who's in this new generation of Star Trek, and really, I like the idea of it. I think it's a good idea. I'm definitely gonna give it a listen. So that's definitely cool in my opinion. I'm definitely looking for more podcasts to listen to. And so I'll definitely be looking at that later on. So yeah, let's get into the heart of this. Just amazing news we got out of San Diego Comic-Con this week. The Picard trailer. Oh my goodness, there is so much going on in this trailer. So much that we are seeing, given access to. And there is going to be this wonderful blending of, obviously things that we know in Star Trek, things that we've seen, characters we've seen. We get new characters. So basically kind of what we're seeing early on is that, Picard has retired from Starfleet. At some point he was an admiral, and then he retired. And the post-Starfleet life is apparently not treating Picard so well. He's reminiscing on some of the things that have happened to him. We see clips of the body of Data stored, I'm presuming, at the Daystrom Institute, where it's usually where a lot of that technological, a lot of the technological things like that are stored for safekeeping, is the Daystrom Institute. And that specific event of Data sacrificing his life to save Picard is kind of one of a focal thing, and there's probably a number of things that Picard has kind of thought about and are weighing heavily on his mind. And he ends up, in this trailer, he ends up meeting this young woman who is in danger somehow. And we don't know how, obviously, and obviously that'll factor more into the series. But, she kind of gives this line of she just feels that's where she needs to be, is with Picard. And we do see some scenes of her in action, kind of kicking some butt, and still being mysterious. We get shots of the new cast, the new characters, which obviously we'll go into more of that later. And yeah, so far this trailer just looks amazing, and it really does. Of course, so Picard goes to Starfleet, kind of like, well, I'm not exactly sure who she is, but I think I have an idea. And if it is who I think it is, she's going to be in very big danger. And here we get some interesting clips. We see Romulans. A lot of what we're seeing for the description of the show is basically saying this is in the post-Nemesis. Actually, more past that. It's past the point of where Romulus is actually destroyed in the 2009 Star Trek movie, before Spock goes back in time to try to avert that. And so from there, we see some very interesting imagery. We see a lot of imagery of the Borg. And of course, we know that Captain Picard has been heavily influenced in his life by the Borg, and what they've done to him is being Locutus and all of that. And definitely, it looks like the Romulans, in their kind of effort to rebuild, might be doing some backwards engineering on Borg technology. One of the things that's gotten a lot of attention is this prison-looking area where they may have former drones that have had their implants removed. You see in the background, you see these heavily armed Romulan guards. And you see in the background what look like Borg regeneration chambers. We see a sign, actually, that says it has been like 5,840 something days without an assimilation. Yeah, a workplace safety sign. And kind of doing the math on that, that's about 16 years. Which we are coming up about. So we're about, 17 years now since Star Trek Nemesis came out, which would put us right in that time. We've had a few years where, after the Romulan Empire was basically wiped out. So this could be a very interesting development. And, I don't know, this is weird, because I've never particularly liked the Romulans and kind of the political things they do. That's not my particular television, but this could be a whole new take on the Romulans. Obviously, if the events that we are led to believe in the 2009 Star Trek happened, and we're in that universe where Romulus is destroyed. They are keeping that part of the prime timeline. That could be interesting, because obviously the Romulans are trying to rebuild and trying to gain, obviously, in some kind of advantage, and it looks like they might be using backwards engineered Borg technology, which we kind of get into some other scenes. After we see the scenes of the new characters pulling in, we get a shot of Captain Picard. He's in just a building, and he's pouring himself a beverage. And no, it is not tea Earl Grey hot. That just looks like a bottle of straight bourbon or whiskey. And we hear a voice from the background. What the hell are you doing here, Picard? Saving the galaxy again? And lo and behold, it is Jeri Ryan. Yes, friends, 7 of 9 herself. She is back in Star Trek, which would make sense. If there's going to be a Borg involvement, that would make sense that we have 7 back in the fold, seeing where she's at. And Jeri Ryan looks amazing. She's got the prosthetic over her eye, and dude, so looking forward to this. And we get the early 2020. I believe originally the series was I believe they were thinking late 2019, but it looks like the official release of that is going to be moved back a little bit to the early part of 2020, which is fine by me, because really this has been an amazing project so far. I know Patrick Stewart is very heavily involved in the creative side, the writing of the show, the running of the show. He's really getting the details right. I know he said in interviews they've kind of come at him for years and years to do something with Picard, and for whatever reason, something about the prospect of this series said he was like, you know what, we can do it. There's something new here, and this is gonna be so amazing. I am really hyped for this series. But after we get that, we go to another scene, and we see that Picard is playing cards, and he says, I don't want this game to end. And he's got a very emotional tilt to him. And we pan up, and when it pans to who he's playing the game of cards with, it's Data. It's Data. Brent Spiner is back in Star Trek, and oh my goodness. Oh, somehow we are going... CBS is atoning for just everything they did in Nemesis, which, I mean, is cool. Obviously, I want to see how that progresses. I know we had, at the end of Nemesis, we had, Data's backup archive that was downloaded into B4, and, people are expecting that may just be B4 in the shot, but, guys, I don't think so. I really don't think so. I truly believe that is Data, because really, from the body language that Picard is using, the way he says, I don't want this game to end, it is very clear that he's been reunited with his friend. Obviously, Data, a very, very competent officer in Starfleet, a great benefit to the Enterprise crew for so many years. But it's just, you can just tell by the way Patrick Stewart delivers the lines that he is talking to Data. And that's really cool. Obviously, there's going to be some way that Data is restored, maybe using the B4 body, maybe using the body of Lore, some weird combination of parts and things. But I think somehow in this first season of this series, we get Data back, which... awesome. Data is my favorite character in all of Star Trek, so I absolutely love it. I'm just so looking forward to this series, and at the time, we didn't have a lot of the technology that we do to create the special effects needed to kind of keep Data looking young, because even at 2002, the cast of Next Generation, they're getting a little older. At that point, it's been, almost 20 years of them doing the franchise between the series, the movies, all of that. And it was hard. Brent Spiner was starting to visibly age out of the role. Obviously the android persona, obviously someone that doesn't age. And I think they kind of wrote it off that he could change his appearance slightly to help make him appear a little older and kind of be aging with his crew members. But oh, this is so amazing. And I actually had to watch this trailer a couple of times, man. I am like, I just felt it, dude. Like, really, for me, it was an emotional experience. I just felt it. And I just allowed myself just to be taken away by just this great vision of the future and Star Trek. And just, I'm so happy that we're getting something from the Prime timeline and just really advancing the narrative even more into the future that we were before, and we're finally going to new places in Star Trek. I really want to see what the new, more future ship designs look like. Obviously, we've seen the newer, interpretations of older ships with the, with the Discovery and the Enterprise from that second season, and I just really can't wait to see how we evolve from, from that point to there. And even then, I just want to see where do some of these other characters from Star Trek go? Where have they been? It has also been officially announced that Jonathan Frakes and Marina Sirtis will both be reprising their roles as, Riker and Troy, at least somewhere in this season. I don't know the extent of how much they will appear. It is also known that Jonathan Frakes will be directing episodes of the series. So at least we know we have this great team of these great actors from Next Generation that are coming back together and really recreating that magic in a new way, taking us in a new direction. It'll definitely be interesting. I know another casting announcement was Jonathan Del Arco, who plays the 305, or also known as Hugh, he was the liberated Borg. It was announced that he's going to make appearances sometime during this season as well. So I am just so pumped to see where this goes, and just kind of, and obviously I'm hoping for other cast members from TNG, Voyager, DS9, who obviously we want to make it so that it makes sense for whatever appearances they do have, but I definitely want to see them appear. And obviously if the story warrants their appearances, but I do want to see especially TNG cast. I want to know where Geordi's been. I want to know where Worf's been. Hopefully we'll get some Klingon Empire stuff, and Crusher and all of them. I am just so excited for the future of Star Trek, man. This is just like, I had to watch the trailer a couple times. Like, I honestly felt just strong emotions. Like, I literally almost cried during this trailer. I know people have cried during the trailer, and I was right there myself, dude. So it was just so beautifully done and so wonderfully shot, and I am just so ready for this series, man. I am insanely ready, and for Lower Decks and more Discovery, and I know there's another more children's focused animated series coming to Nickelodeon, and I want these series to do well, and I want there to be more Star Trek, because I think that's the plan with the CBS All Access, is to have a Star Trek series of some sort as their anchor program, kind of as a thing that gets people to subscribe to the service and stay subscribed, because I believe there was a pretty decent subscriber fallback. Once each season of Discovery has ended so far, people would buy the subscription, then tune out, which is a very common tactic. Things like when you have HBO Go with Game of Thrones, that's something that's very cyclical, and things they see repeatedly. People will buy the subscriptions, and keep it through the season. Some might, get the subscription and do like a 1 month thing right after the season ends. And that's sort of one of those tactics that you need to keep a subscriber base to this subscription service. And that's sort of what CBS's plan is for All Access, is to say, okay, we are going to develop Star Trek. We've got Picard, we've got Discovery, we've got Lower Decks, we're going to develop other shows that we can just rotate out and keep a constant but fresh Star Trek perspective to really sell this network. And I think that's a great plan. So for me, I'm just so excited about what Star Trek is offering us and what we're going to get over the next year or so. And man, I am so ready for the ride. But that's all I got for this video. I'll see you next time, guys, for another Geek World Order video. I'll see you next time.